The last fleet. The memory of Earth burned in Captain Elena Rey's mind like a wound that would never heal. From the observation deck of the Defiance, she gazed at the vast armada stretched before her. 900,000 warships, each one built from the broken dreams and fierce determination of humanity's survivors. The fleet represented everything they had left, their last resources, their final hope, their ultimate vengeance. "Captain, final preparations are complete," Commander Jackson reported, interrupting her thoughts. "All ships report ready status." Elena nodded, her expression unchanging as she continued to stare at the fleet. In the 7 years since the Senlarian Empire had reduced Earth to a smoking cinder, she had forgotten how to smile. The aliens had come without warning, without mercy, and without explanation. 3 billion humans dead in the first wave alone. The survivors had scattered across the colonies, hiding, rebuilding, planning. "Send the order," she said quietly. "It's time." The message spread across the vast network of ships, each vessel acknowledging the command. The last human coalition had spent years constructing this fleet in secret, gathering resources from abandoned outposts and hijacked Senlarian supply lines. Every ship carried a piece of Earth with it, salvaged technology, precious artifacts, the last remnants of a murdered world. Elena made her way to the bridge, her footsteps echoing in the corridor. The Defiance was one of the largest vessels in the fleet, a dreadnought-class warship retrofitted with experimental technology. She had overseen its construction personally, ensuring every weapon system, every defensive measure was pushed beyond theoretical limits. "Status?" she asked as she took her place in the command chair. "All systems green," replied Lieutenant Keija Chen, her hands moving skillfully across the tactical display. "The fleet is forming up in attack formation Delta." "Any sign of Senlarian patrols?" "Nothing yet, Captain. We're still outside their sensor range." Elena nodded. The element of surprise was critical to their plan. The Senlarian Empire controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy, but their forces were spread thin. Intelligence suggested their homeworld was relatively unprotected. They had grown complacent after crushing every resistance they encountered. The massive fleet began to move, engines flaring blue against the darkness of space. Elena felt the subtle vibration beneath her feet as the Defiance's thrusters engaged. There was no turning back now. In the depths of her quarters was a small box containing a handful of soil, the last she had taken from her family's farm before the invasion. She had promised that soil that she would return it to a world where the Senlarians no longer existed. "Captain," Commander Jackson said quietly, stepping closer to her chair. "The civilian leadership is requesting one final confirmation of the attack plan." Elena suppressed a flicker of irritation. The remaining human government, if it could be called that, consisted of representatives from the surviving colonies. They had approved the mission, but some still harbored doubts about the scale of the retaliation. "Confirm the plan," she replied. "No changes." The plan was simple in concept, if not execution. Take the fleet directly to the Senlarian homeworld and destroy it completely. A genocide for a genocide. An eye for an eye. The complete eradication of the species that had tried to eradicate them. 3 days into their journey, they encountered the first sign of Senlarian presence, a small scouting group of 5 vessels patrolling the edge of what was once neutral space. "Senlarian ships detected," announced the sensor officer. "Scout-class vessels. They haven't spotted us yet." Elena leaned forward. "Options. We could alter course to avoid them," suggested Commander Jackson, "or eliminate them quickly before they can alert others." "If we alter course, we lose time," Elena said. "If we attack, we might alert their network." She considered for just a moment. "Prepare targeted EMP missiles. I want those ships disabled with crews intact." The order was given, and 5 warships broke from the main fleet, approaching the Senlarian scouts from multiple vectors. The attack was swift and precise. The alien vessels were disabled before they could transmit a warning. "Boarding parties report success," Jackson informed her an hour later. We've captured all 5 ships and secured 23 Senlarian crew members. Bring the senior officer to the Defiance, Alina ordered. I want to speak with them personally. The Senlarian captain was brought to the interrogation room in specialized restraints. Alina studied the alien with cold detachment. Its mottled green skin and 4 eyes gave it an almost reptilian appearance, though its internal biology was vastly different from any reptile that had evolved on Earth. Do you understand me? Alina asked, the shipboard AI translating her words into the harsh clicks and whistles of the Senlarian language. The alien made a sound that the translator interpreted as affirmative. Good. I have questions about your homeworld's defenses, and you're going to answer them. You are human, the Senlarian said, its voice rendered flat and emotionless by the translation. Humans are supposed to be extinct. Clearly, your empire's intelligence has failed, Alina replied coldly. Now tell me about the defenses around your homeworld. The Senlarian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. You have stolen our technology, adapted it, but you cannot hope to defeat the Empire. The homeworld is protected by the Great Shield. Your weapons will mean nothing. The Great Shield, Alina pressed. A defensive barrier that surrounds our entire star system. Impenetrable. Your fleet will be destroyed the moment you approach. Alina leaned forward. No shield is truly impenetrable. The interrogation continued for hours, but the Senlarian revealed little of tactical value. It seemed genuinely convinced that the defense system protecting their homeworld was absolute. Later, Alina reviewed the data they had extracted from the captured ships. The information confirmed what their prisoner had claimed. A massive energy barrier surrounded the Senlarian home system, powered by technology far beyond current human understanding. We need to reassess our approach, Commander Jackson suggested during the emergency council meeting. If this shield is as powerful as the data suggests, we find a way through. Alina interrupted firmly. 900,000 ships. We have enough firepower to overwhelm any defense they've built. Captain, with respect, interjected Chief Engineer Malik. This isn't about raw firepower. The energy readings from this shield are unlike anything we've encountered. It appears to operate on principles we don't fully comprehend. Alina stared at the holographic display showing the projected shield. Then we'll have to learn quickly. Analyze everything we've captured. Find a weakness. As the meeting dispersed, Alina remained behind, studying the data. The Senlarian technology had always been advanced. It was how they had overwhelmed Earth's defenses so quickly. But humans were adaptable. They had spent years reverse engineering captured tech, integrating it with their own innovations. 3 days later, as the fleet approached the outer reach of Senlarian territory, their communications array detected an unusual signal. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, Lieutenant Chen reported with confusion. But it's not Senlarian in origin. Source? Alina asked. Unknown. The signature doesn't match any species in our database. Put it through. The bridge speakers came to life with a series of harmonious tones that somehow formed coherent words in a language none of them had heard before. Yet, somehow, Alina understood the meaning. Humans of Earth, we have watched your preparation. Your vengeance fleet approaches great danger. The Senlarians are not what you believe them to be. There is more at stake than your revenge. Meet us at the coordinates we provide if you wish to understand the true enemy. The message ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. A trap, suggested Jackson. Perhaps, Alina replied. Or perhaps not. Either way, we need to investigate. This could be valuable intelligence. She ordered a small detachment of 20 ships to follow the provided coordinates while the main fleet continued its advance. The coordinates led to a seemingly empty region of space, several light years from their current position. 2 days later, the detachment reported back. Captain, you won't believe what we found, came the voice of Captain Hernandez from the reconnaissance group. There's another species here. They call themselves the Voidwalkers. They claim to have been monitoring the Senlarians for centuries. And they're willing to help us?" Elena asked, skeptical. "More than that. They say the Senlarians aren't acting of their own volition. They're being controlled by something else, something that wants to see both our species destroy each other." Elena felt a chill run through her. "Bring one of these Voidwalkers to the Defiance. I need to hear this directly." As the fleet continued its advance toward Senlarian space, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading into something far more complex than a simple revenge mission. The memory of Earth still burned bright in her mind, but now a sliver of doubt had crept in. What if they were being manipulated? What if there was more to the destruction of Earth than simple alien aggression? The fleet pressed onward, 900,000 warships carrying the last hope of humanity. But whether that hope was for vengeance or something else entirely remained to be seen. The impossible choice. The Voidwalker ambassador stood before Elena on the bridge of the Defiance, its form shimmering like liquid starlight contained within a roughly humanoid shape. The creature had no discernible face, yet Elena sensed it was studying her intently. "Your species harbors much anger," the Voidwalker said, its voice resonating directly in her mind rather than through the air. "Understandable, but dangerous in its blindness. The Senlarians destroy our homeworld," Elena replied coldly. "Our anger is justified. The beings you call Senlarians are merely vessels," the Voidwalker explained. "Their actions were not their own. They are victims of the same entity that now hopes you will finish what it started." Elena crossed her arms. "Explain." The Voidwalker's form rippled, and suddenly the bridge was filled with a three-dimensional projection of events, a historical record pulled directly from its consciousness. Elena and her officers watched in stunned silence as the history of the Senlarian people unfolded before them. The Senlarians had once been peaceful explorers, their civilization focused on art and scientific discovery. Then something had entered their space, a cosmic entity the Voidwalkers called the Thought Eater. It had infected their planetary network, gradually altering the collective consciousness of their species. Over generations, the Senlarians had transformed from peaceful explorers to conquerors, never realizing they were fulfilling the will of something that had hijacked their evolutionary path. "The entity feeds on conflict," the Voidwalker explained. "It grows stronger with each civilization that falls. Earth was not its first target, nor will it be its last if your revenge succeeds." "Are you suggesting we forgive the genocide of our planet?" Commander Jackson asked incredulously. "No," the Voidwalker replied. "I am suggesting you direct your considerable strength at the true enemy. The shield around the Senlarian homeworld is not their creation. It is the physical manifestation of the entity's hold on their star system. If you destroy it correctly, you may free the Senlarians rather than exterminate them." Elena felt the weight of 900,000 ships and their crews pressing down on her. They had come for vengeance, not liberation. Would they follow her if she changed the mission so fundamentally? "If what you're saying is true," she said carefully, "then how do we destroy this entity without destroying the Senlarians?" The Voidwalker's form contracted slightly. "Our species has developed a technology that can disrupt the entity's connection to physical matter. We can modify your weapons, but you must target specific nodes within the shield rather than attempting to breach it directly." Elena turned to Chief Engineer Malik. "Is this feasible?" He studied the schematics the Voidwalker was projecting. "Theoretically, yes. But we'd need to recalibrate the entire fleet's weapon systems. That will take time." "Time we may not have," Elena replied. "We're 3 days from the Senlarian border." The decision weighed heavily on her. The fleet had been built for one purpose: to destroy the species that had destroyed Earth. Now she was considering a radical change in objective, based on the word of an alien they had just met. "I need proof," she finally said to the Voidwalker. "Show me that the Senlarians are truly not responsible for their actions." "We can do better than show you," the Voidwalker replied. "We can help you free one from the entity's control." They returned to the brig where the captured Senlarian captain was being held. The Voidwalker approached the containment field, extending a tendril of its shimmering form through the barrier. It made contact with the Senlarian's head, and the alien began to convulse. Alina moved to intervene, but the Voidwalker raised its other appendage in a stopping gesture. Wait. The convulsions subsided, and the Senlarian slumped against the wall. When it raised its head again, its 4 eyes held a clarity that hadn't been there before. Where? What has happened to me? It asked, its voice translated differently now, smoother, less mechanical. You have been freed, the Voidwalker explained. Temporarily. The Senlarian looked around in confusion before its gaze settled on Alina. Recognition and then horror spread across its alien features. Humans, it whispered. By the ancient stars. What have we done? Over the next hour, Alina listened as the freed Senlarian, who called itself Varric, described watching helplessly as its own body participated in atrocities its mind rebelled against. The Senlarian people were prisoners in their own bodies, their true consciousness suppressed, but still aware of everything the entity forced them to do. Our entire species screams silently, Varric explained, mandibles trembling. We have watched ourselves become monsters. Alina felt her resolve faltering. She had spent 7 years focused on revenge, nurturing her hatred to keep the pain at bay. But now, faced with the possibility that the true enemy remained untouched by their planned genocide, she found herself questioning everything. She called an emergency council with her senior officers and the leaders of the major ship contingents. The debate was heated, with many arguing that the Voidwalker's claims could be an elaborate deception. Even if it's true, argued Captain Rodriguez of the assault carrier Vengeance, the fact remains that it was Senlarian weapons that burned our world. Senlarian hands that killed our families. Hands controlled by something else, Alina countered. If we destroy the Senlarians without eliminating the real threat, how long before this entity finds another species to turn against us? The debate continued for hours, but in the end, Alina made her decision. They would adopt the Voidwalker's plan, recalibrating their weapons to target the entity's connection points rather than attempting to destroy the shield outright. Not everyone agreed. 30,000 ships, led by Captain Rodriguez, broke from the main fleet, determined to carry out the original mission regardless of the new information. They will alert the entity to our approach, the Voidwalker warned. Then we'd better work quickly, Alina replied grimly. For the next 48 hours, the fleet worked feverishly to modify their weapons according to the Voidwalker's specifications. Meanwhile, the breakaway group accelerated toward Senlarian space, intent on their mission of vengeance. They didn't get far. As Rodriguez's ships approached the border, they were met by a Senlarian defense force of immense proportions. The battle was brief and devastating. Alina watched the tactical display in horror as ship after ship winked out of existence. The entity knows we're coming, she said quietly. It's sacrificing Senlarian forces to stop us. No, the Voidwalker corrected. It is feeding. Each death, human and Senlarian alike, strengthens it. The realization chilled Alina to her core. The entity had manipulated them from the start, guiding humanity's thirst for revenge toward a confrontation that would only make it stronger. We need a new approach, she decided. Something it won't expect. The plan they devised was audacious. Instead of attacking the shield directly, they would use the massive fleet to create a diversion, while a small strike team, led by Alina herself, would approach the Senlarian homeworld from an unexpected vector. The Voidwalkers had identified what they believed to be the physical anchor of the entity within the planet's core. If we can destroy that anchor, the Voidwalker explained, the entity's hold on the Senlarians will be broken. As the main fleet engaged the Senlarian defenses in a carefully orchestrated battle that minimized casualties on both sides, Alina's strike team slipped through a blind spot in the planetary sensor grid. The Defiance and 50 other ships carrying specialized equipment descended toward the planet's surface. What they found below shocked even Alina, who thought she had prepared herself for anything. The Senlarian homeworld was beautiful, not the hellish military complex they had imagined, but a world of soaring crystal cities and lush forests. And its people moved through it like automatons, their true selves imprisoned within their own bodies. The strike team fought their way to the central hub of the planetary network, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with unnatural energy. Here, the Voidwalkers believed, was the entity's primary connection to the physical world. Once we destroy this, what happens to the Sunlarians? Elena asked as they prepared the specialized disruptor weapon. Those who can adapt to sudden freedom will survive, the Voidwalker replied. Others may not. Freedom always carries risk. Elena thought of Earth, of the billions lost. Was she really about to spare the species that had been the instrument of that destruction? But then she remembered Varric's words. Our entire species screams silently. Activate the disruptor, she ordered. The weapon powered up, emitting a frequency that made human ears bleed, and Sunlarian guards collapse in convulsions. The crystalline structure began to vibrate, cracks spreading across its surface. From within, a sound emerged, not physical, but psychic, a howl of rage that penetrated every mind within range. It knows, the Voidwalker warned. It's trying to maintain control. The entity's resistance manifested physically as the structure began to repair itself, crystal shards flowing back together. Elena ordered more power to the disruptor, pushing it beyond its designed limits. Captain, the device is becoming unstable, warned her engineer. Keep it running, Elena commanded. She turned to the Voidwalker. Will this work? The connection is weakening, but not fast enough, it replied. The entity is stronger than we anticipated. Elena made a split-second decision. She grabbed the portable power core from the engineer's pack and approached the fracturing crystal structure. Captain, what are you doing? Commander Jackson shouted. Finishing this, she replied. Get everyone back to the ships. Before anyone could stop her, Elena pushed through the energy field surrounding the crystal. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, but she forced herself forward. At the center of the structure, where the cracks were most pronounced, she could perceive something, not with her eyes, but with her mind. A presence, ancient and malevolent, aware of her now and focusing its attention on her. You destroyed my world, Elena said through gritted teeth. You won't get another. She activated the power core's overload sequence and slammed it into the deepest crack in the crystal. The entity's psychic scream intensified, boring into her mind with promises, threats, visions of power. Elena held firm, her thoughts focused on Earth, not its destruction, but its beauty, its life. Everything the entity could never understand. Commander Jackson disobeyed her order to retreat, instead fighting his way to her position. He reached her just as the power core reached critical levels. Elena, he shouted above the cacophony of alarms and psychic noise. She turned to him, a strange peace settling over her despite the chaos. Get them home, James. Whatever's left of us. Find somewhere new. He tried to pull her away from the crystal, but the energy field had tightened around her, binding her to the structure. With a final surge of effort, Elena pushed him back beyond the field's range. Go, she commanded. The last thing she saw before the explosion was the strike team retreating, carrying the knowledge of what had happened back to the fleet. The power core detonated, and Elena Reyes, captain of the Defiance and leader of humanity's last fleet, became pure energy. The blast rippled outward from the crystal structure, but rather than destroying everything in its path, it spread in waves of clarifying light. Across the planet, Sunlarians stopped in their tracks, 4 eyes blinking in sequence as awareness returned to them fully for the first time in generations. In orbit, the massive battle between the human fleet and the Sunlarian defenses ground to a halt as Sunlarian commanders suddenly found themselves in control of their own minds. Confusion gave way to horror as they realized what they had been part of. The entity's hold was broken, but the cost had been enormous on both sides. Of the original 900,000 ships, barely half remained. The Senlarian military infrastructure was in chaos as its personnel struggled to comprehend their newfound freedom and the atrocities they had committed while under control. Commander Jackson, now captain of the Defiance and de facto leader of the human fleet, stood on the bridge looking down at the Senlarian homeworld. Beside him, the Voidwalker ambassador's form pulsed with solemn light. She succeeded, the Voidwalker confirmed. The entity has been banished from this region of space. It may take centuries for it to recover enough strength to threaten another world. And the Senlarians. They are free, and they remember everything they were forced to do. The implications of that were staggering. An entire species suddenly confronted with the reality that they had been used to commit countless acts of genocide across the galaxy. The first official communication from the Senlarian leadership came 3 days later, a formal surrender and an offer of reparation that acknowledged no compensation could ever be sufficient for what had been done to Earth. Jackson brought the message to the Council. What do we do now? He asked the assembled leaders of what remained of humanity. We came for vengeance. Do we accept their surrender? The debate was long and painful. Some argued that regardless of the entity's influence, the Senlarians must face justice for Earth's destruction. Others pointed out that punishing the Senlarians would not bring back Earth and might only continue the cycle of violence the entity had fed upon. In the end, they'd reached a compromise. The Senlarians would help humanity establish a new homeworld and provide technology and resources for rebuilding. In return, humans would share what they had learned about the entity, helping the Senlarians develop defenses against any future incursion. It wasn't justice, nothing could be, but it was survival. And perhaps in time, something more. 1 year later, Jackson stood on the surface of New Terra, a world the Senlarians had helped them terraform to Earth-like conditions. Beside him stood Varric, now an ambassador for the Senlarian Reconciliation Council. Your captain, Varric said, mandibles clicking softly in what Jackson had learned was a gesture of respect. She understood something even the Voidwalkers did not. The entity fed not just on conflict, but on hatred itself. Jackson nodded. They had found evidence in the ruins of the crystal structure, records that suggested the entity had been cultivating both species for centuries, guiding them toward an inevitable confrontation. Helena chose to break the cycle, he replied. Now it's up to us to make sure it stays broken. In the sky above, the remaining ships of humanity's great fleet had taken on a new role. No longer weapons of vengeance, they now served as the guardians of the fragile peace and the transports bringing humans from distant hiding places to their new home. 900,000 ships had set out to avenge Earth. Less than half had returned, but they had accomplished something far more significant than revenge. They had secured humanity's future and freed an enemy they never knew was also a victim. As Jackson looked up at the unfamiliar stars of their new home, he remembered Elena's last words to him. Get them home, James. Whatever's left of us. Find somewhere new. They had found somewhere new. Not Earth. Nothing could replace Earth. But a place where humanity could begin again, wiser for its hardships, and determined never to be manipulated by hatred again. The war was over, the real enemy defeated, and though the cost had been high, both humans and Senlarians had a second chance, an opportunity to build something together from the ashes of their manipulation. It wasn't the vengeance they had sought, but it was perhaps something better, a future.